Hello everybody, Grim here. So recently I have been playing a different game. I've started to play DCS World and I play in VR, but you don't have to. This video does not apply strictly to the VR people. This video applies to the mode selector knob on the Logitech X56 H.O.T.A.S throttle, and getting it to actually work the way a person would normally expect it to work inside of DCS World. If you don't know what an X56 H.O.T.A.S throttle is and you don't know what DCS World is, this is not the video for you. Let me show you what the issue is. What we're talking about is this little knob right here. You can choose between M1, M2, and S1. And what the heck does that even do? Well, what it's supposed to do is be like a shift key, except instead of a shift key you've got like 3 levels. Instead of just lowercase and uppercase, you've got 3 levels, right? So what is that even for? You can see that this H.O.T.A.S has a lot of buttons, and DCS World has aircraft that also have a lot of buttons. And they have even more buttons than this joystick has, if you can believe that. In VR, it's even worse because you can't see your H.O.T.A.S. You have to do it all by feeling around. So there are some buttons and knobs and switches that are easy to get to. There are some that are not so good to get to. What we would like to do is be able to reach down here and switch this switch, and what that basically does is it multiplies how many buttons you have. For example, if I'm on M1 and I push this switch right here, a certain thing will happen, whatever I programmed into my game, right? But if this is not programmed in, no matter what position I have it in, this switch always does the same thing. If I do have this mode selector programmed in properly, if I switch it to M2, it's like this switch is a whole nother button and I can do something completely different with it when this is selected on M2. If I switch to S1, same thing. I can do a third completely different thing with it. So whatever I want that switch to do, it can do 3 different things for me depending on how I have my selectors set. That is what the mode switch is supposed to do. Now, getting it to do that inside of DCS World, it's a massive issue for a lot of people. A lot of people just give up. There's a couple of different videos and Google forum posts, I've Googled it, I've read forums, I've watched videos, I've tried those things. Long story short, they didn't work for me. I really need that knob to work for me. The problem is DCS does not recognize that mode rotary dial as a button. Now, I've seen some videos that claim that in fact it's button 34, 35, and 36. I tried it. I couldn't get it to work. It seems to just completely ignore that knob. DCS World seems to completely ignore that knob. That being the case, I found a workaround. You can't use DCS software to map that knob by itself. DCS World just doesn't recognize that knob, so you can't use it in DCS. You have to do something a little bit tricky, which is to use the Logitech software that, quite frankly, everybody hates, but we're forced to use it. So I'm going to show you how it works. First thing you have to do is you have to understand, what does this software really do? It does a couple of things. One of the things it does is help you get your analog joysticks and throttles and knobs and sliders working right, and we're not going to talk about that in this video. We're strictly going to talk about how to get the mode button working. Another thing that this software does is it can map a keyboard command, a keyboard button, W, X, or Y, or tab, or 1, or 7, or you know, slash, or whatever you want. It can map one of your buttons to a keyboard button. Well, DCS World, instead of receiving a button push, remember it doesn't recognize that mode selector switch at all. It can't see it. What it can see with the help of this software is I can tell this software make my mode switch appear as a keyboard button, which DCS does recognize, and then I can map it in DCS World. Like a modifier is what they're called, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let me go ahead and show you how we do this part, right? We're going to go into programming. We're going to go into the throttle. Okay? I'm going to click on views. Okay? Mode 1, I'm not going to do anything. Mode 2 and Mode 3, I have to choose a keyboard button that I want to have that mode selector switch represent. I like to use left control and right control. You could use some other buttons if you felt like it. That's fine. So I'm going to click right here. I'm going to go to press and I'm going to hit left control on my keyboard. Now, two things pop up. The first thing that happens is it shows this is supposed to represent the control button being pushed down. This is supposed to represent the control being let up. And there's a tiny little number underneath 0.067 seconds. It means wait this teeny tiny amount of time before you release the button. What it's doing is pretending to push the button, and it's giving a delay in between the time that it pushes it and lets it go. It's supposed to represent a keystroke, not holding the button down. Well, that's no good because we want to use it as a shift key. So the whole time that the mode selector is in that position, I want it to be held down, but what I don't want it to do is to be acting like somebody's pushing the button tap, 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 tap. That's not what I want. I want it to just be held down. So here's what we do. We're going to highlight this second part. We're going to delete it. So I should just have a press control with the zeros underneath it. If I had to get rid of it, if I had to change the numbers, I could go to quantize time, change it 0 to 0.00 and click OK if I had to. But this is all I want. I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to come over here on mode 3. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click where it says press. This time I'm going to do right control. I'm going to highlight that second part. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to say OK. Now you should probably save your profile. If you haven't saved it already, it's probably going to ask you for a name. Okay? That's all I have to do with this Logitech part of the software as far as the mode selector switch goes. So I'm going to get this out of the way. Now we're going to go back into DCS World. What we're going to do is I am going to map the canopy to that other mode. Here's how we do. We're going to go into settings. We're going to go to controls. We're going to come down here to systems. Okay? And what we want is canopy open, canopy closed. And we want to be under the throttle, right? This is my throttle right here. We're going to open that up. First thing I'm going to do is add a modifier. I chose to make mode 3 the right control. So I'm going to come in here and go to right control. That's my modifier. And the other thing I'm going to do, push the button that I want to use. In this case it's joy button 1. And that's it. I'm going to say OK. So what that means is that I have to be in S1, which would simulate right control being held down, in order to get that to work. So let's see if it works. Let's go ahead and start our training mission. So here we are in the cockpit, and right now you can't see it, but I have mode selector on M1, right? And I'm pushing the button 1 that I mapped. Nothing's happening. I'm going to switch it down to S1. Going to hit the same button, and there goes my canopy. I can open it, I can close it, toggle it close, toggle it open. When I switch back to mode 1, doesn't do that anymore. Sorry about that alarm. So that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. That's how you get the mode button working in DCS World. At least that's how I did it. I didn't have much luck with the other tutorials. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Grim out.